Okay, so for today's tutorial, we are going to learn how to do the very, very basic granny square. Now, I typically like to use charts, and the reason being is that if you find a pattern that you like, but maybe it's not written like the pattern writer's native language doesn't happen to be English, or maybe the instruction's a little bit confusing, if you can find yourself a nice chart like this, the instructions, and if you learn the different symbols, it's always going to be understandable. So this is a basic granny square chart. And here you can see here at the bottom that we've got a double crochet symbol, a chain symbol, and a slip stitch. That's all we're going to be using. So for this pattern here, we're going to start with a chain of 4, then we're going to chain out 3 and over 2. Then we're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets all the way around. And that's going to make our first square. From there, we're going to chain out to the second row, chain up 3, chain over 2, and that's going to create that first corner. Well, it's going to end up being the last corner. Goes here. And then we do 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets. This is again at your corner over here. And then we're going to do the 3 double crochets again all the way around. And the chain that we start on right here is where we're going to finish. So we're going to finish off with 2 double crochets, and then that section right there is going to equal that 3rd double crochet. Then we're just going to chain up and go around and all the way around. So let's go ahead and get started. So the yarn that I'm using is going to call for a 5, and that's about a standard. This is my O-Fire resin hook, and that's about a standard size for a weight of 4 yarn. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And we're going to chain 4 just like in the diagram. One, 2, 3. Now there's 2 ways to start. You can either start with a chain and then go into that first, slip stitch into the first, or you can do a magic circle. But for today's video, we're only going to be chaining into that first stitch. So we're going to slip stitch right in there, and then we're going to close it off. And now we've actually made this little circle right here where we're going to put our other stitches. All right, so from here, we're going to chain 3, because that's going to be that last double crochet on this row as we finish it. Chain 3 up, and then we're going to chain 2 across. And then we're going to go into this little circle right here that we've made, and we're going to do 3 double crochets. So there's 1 double crochet, 2, and 3. So now we've got our 3 double crochets. Now we're going to move into our next corner, and so in order to do that, we're going to do 2 chains and then 3 more double crochets. Okay, so now you can see we've got our 3 double crochets, right? And then that chain 2. From here, now our corners are starting small, and then the bigger you make your granny square, the larger, the more corners the more sides you've got. Okay, so I chained 2, and now I'm going to go ahead and do 3 more double crochets into that circle. So now you can see we've got this is one side of our square. So we've got 3 double crochets. This is our second side, third side, and then we're going to be closing out. So remember how we started with that chain 3 up here. Now we're just going to do 2 double crochets, not the 3, because that chain 3 acts as our first double crochet, or rather it's probably going to consider it the 3rd double crochet. So now we've got those 2. And then we've got this 3rd one. What we're going to do is we slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 that we started with. So we just slip stitch right there. We're not adding a stitch. So now you can see we've got our 4 sides of our square. You've got the 1, 2, 3, and the 4. From here, we're going to chain 3. That's going to be the last double crochet for this next row, and then we're going to chain 2, which is going to take us into that first corner. So from here, we're going to do the 3 double crochets. So now we've almost finished that corner. When we finish up on the back, when we finish the square, we'll have that corner done. We're going to go ahead, chain 1, then we're moving into our next corner where we go 3 double crochets. We're going to chain, so we've got 2 double crochets. Let's do one more. Then we're going to chain 2. Then we're going to go 3 more double crochets right into that corner. So now you can see we have our corner. We've got 3 double crochets with a chain 2 and a 3 double crochets. We're going to chain 1 and move into this next corner. So once again, 3 double crochets. There's 2. We'll do one more. From here, we're going to chain 2, 3 more double crochets into that same corner space. And now you can see we have 3 double crochets with a chain 2 and a 3 double crochets. And you can start to see how the square is becoming nice and having some nice corners, and it's nice and straight. Later on, we'll do some tutorials on like triangles and all different kinds of shapes that you can do. Granny squares are so versatile. You can do hexagons, you can do octagons. So now we're doing the chain 1. We're going into this next corner, which is right here. There's just so many things that you can do with these. You can make a variety of different squares, different colors, different designs. You can make one just really big granny square, make it into a big blanket. You can do garments. You can have absolutely so much fun making granny squares. So you see, I finished the chain or the 3 double crochets, chain 2. There's 1 double crochet, rounding out this corner. There's 2. And there's 3. Okay, now we're coming back around to the end of this row. Now remember, we started with that chain 3 up here, which is going to act as our double crochet. So we're going to go ahead and chain 1 because that's how we're creating those side spaces. We're just going to go in here into this corner space and do the 2 double crochets right here. And I know it seems a little weird and wonky, but when you do a slip stitch into the top chain 3, that brings that double crochet together, and we're just slip stitching. We're not actually adding anything. And then you can see how you've got your corner. So there's our second, well, technically our 3rd row, but it's kind of our 2nd row of this. So from here, we're going to, again, moving into the next row, chain 3, chain 2 more, which is your corner piece, and then we're going to dive right in here, do the 3 double crochets. Okay, now here is the interesting part. When we get to this 3rd row, we've created this chain space from where we were before. So let's go ahead and make a chain. And then we're going to move into that chain space from the previous row. We're going to do 3 double crochets, but we're only going to do 3 because it's not a corner. So we're doing 3 double crochets here. We're going to chain 1, and by chaining 1, and we're moving into that next corner, but what we're doing is we're creating more side spaces. So in the next row, we're going to put a chain 3 double crochets in here, and then we're going to put 1 right in there. So now we're moving back into this corner. I already chained 1. So I'm doing 3 double crochets. chain 2, because this is a corner space, remember. Doing 3 more double crochets into that corner space. The nice thing too about granny squares, if you're making an afghan or something, it's always going to come out nice and straight. Where sometimes if you're crocheting row by row, depending, you really have to make sure that you watch your stitch count so that you're getting the same amount of stitches and it doesn't get crooked on the sides. That typically is not the case with a granny square. So here you see we've created that corner. Now again, we're going to create that 1 chain space because we're going to have another chain space here. We're going to do 3 double crochets into this side. So there we go. Now we're going to create 1 more chain space there, and we're moving into our next corner. So here's our next corner. So here we're going to go 3 double crochets, chain 2, remember because it's a corner, and then we're doing 3 double crochets. There's 1, 2, and 3. And the reason that we do the 2 in the corners is to give it that really nice sharp corner. Now from here, we're going, remember, we're chaining 1. We're going into that side space where we're just doing the 3 double crochets because it is not a corner. We're going to chain 1 again. Then we're moving back into this corner space. So 3 double crochets. Oops. Chaining 2 because it's a corner. Doing 3 more double crochets. Chain 1, moving into that side space once again. There's our 3 double crochets, chain 1. Then we're going into, remember, this corner space. So because we've already done the first double crochet when we started the row, that's actually going to end up being our 3rd double crochet. We're going to go into this corner space. And there are different ways to do it. Some people don't prefer to do those chains, and you can, but for this demonstration today, we're doing those 3 chains. So we come up, oops, so I only need to do 2 because I've already got the 1. So there's the 2, there's my last one, and remember, there's my chain 2, so I'm going to just slip stitch right into the top of that chain 3, which acts as the double crochet, and I'm not adding a stitch, so I'm just slip stitching. And there you go. And then to continue, you would just do chain 3, chain 2 across, and then here you see you've got those 2 side spaces. So we go across side space, doing the same thing in the corner, the 2 side spaces, and then as you go, it's going to get bigger and bigger, and you're going to grow more of your side spaces. And there you have it. It's that easy. But remember, see if you can find a pattern that has a chart, because once you learn these universal symbols, and by universal, everybody uses them. So anytime anyone's doing a chart, these are the universal symbols that they need to be using. You just got your double crochet, your chain, and your slip stitch, and that's how we make this corner, or this granny square. So there you have it. This is your basic, great starting place for a granny square. And here you go. And then as you go on, you can add in bubbles or flowers, or there's just all kinds of patterns for granny squares. This is our general tutorial on the basic granny stitch. This is Kimberly with Knit for Brains. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you soon.